Hi, this is Jeff Altman, and welcome to Job Search Radio on webtalkradio.net. You know, I start off each show with a job search secret that I call the Job Search Insider. And I want to talk today about a simple way that people can make decisions about offers. Now, when I work with candidates that I coach, there's certain things that I'll do in terms of making sure that they're clear about the qualities and the priorities that they're looking for job at the beginning of the search, so that when the offer comes, they're able to evaluate it much more clearly. But I saw something a while ago from Jack and Susie Welsh that I think could be very helpful to those of you who haven't engaged in a coaching process with someone like myself or my guest Connie Hampton, who will be on in a little bit. So here's a couple of things that you might do a la Jack and Susie that will help you with evaluating an offer. And the first thing is, will the new job be filled with workers who share your sensibilities, or will you have to zone out or fake it to get along? The second thing is, will the new job search, the new position, stretch your mind and build on your skills and take you out of your comfort zone, or are you really entering at the top of your game? The third thing is, will the new job open or close doors for you should you ever leave? Next is, I love this language, will the new job turn your crank, touch your soul, and give you meaning? And finally, if you're making a compromise, who are you making happy by taking this job, and are you okay with that bargain? So there's more complexity that will go into it with a coach who can listen to some of the things you say and help texture this a lot more fluidly for you. But for those of you who choose not to work with a coach, I think it's a mistake, but that's your choice. And these 5 criteria from Jack and Susie Welsh could be very helpful to you. So that's my tip for this time, and I want to introduce my guest, Connie Hampton, who founded Hampton & Associates and has found the right people for life sciences clients since 1997 and has grown with her industry, because Lord knows pharma, biotech, and life sciences has become enormous in the United States. She publishes an online newsletter for executive and scientific job seekers in virtual to mid-sized life sciences and biotech companies. And in 2011, she started Network Polish Kit to help professionals in the highly educated, mission-critical biotech, biopharma world to manage their careers by deploying strategies specific to their industry. Connie, welcome to Job Search Radio. Great to have you on.
Thank you, Jeff. I'm glad to be here. I have a couple little dogs in the background. I hope they're not a problem. They are usually...
How could a dog be a problem? Come on. They may yip and yap, but hey, that's what happens in life.
There we go.
So when we spoke last time, before we started doing the interview, before we started today, we did a pre-interview, and you were kind of talking with me about some of the mistakes that job hunters make in biotech and biopharma, and it kind of reminded me of what IT people used to do some years ago. Could you tell the listeners some of the things that people in that space just don't do well that they could be doing much better?
Well, the people who are entering the industry are so used to having a path laid out in front of them by other people or convention or whatever. They don't stop and decide what it is they really want in terms of the criteria for their first job, the criteria for the companies they want to work for. I get people who say, I want a job in biotech. And I say, what job do you want? And they say, anything. And there is no anything job. Haven't seen a job posting for an anything job ever. So.
In any field whatsoever, of course.
Really. So that's one thing. The other thing is that frequently we find that people who have been working in a lab for a while are not marketers and don't really know how to market themselves. So personal branding has become so important these days. and the ability to network is so important in finding the right next job as opposed to any job. So,
Connie, you've taken us down two roads. I'm going to take the first one first, and that is for the entry-level person who, hi, I'm willing to do anything.
And they're right, and they probably can, but
the employer doesn't care because all they care about is what problem of mine can you solve.
Exactly.
So how would you suggest that entry-level person better position themselves when they talk to someone like you or talk to an employer? How to package it better?
Okay. First of all, employers never hire a recruiter to find entry-level people. It's just too easy to find them. So it's HR's problem to find folks. So first of all, I would say decide what it is that really ignites your passion, as Susie and Jack were talking about. Don't go into a job simply because it's a job, but look for the companies that are working in the area, the therapeutic area, the specific industry niche that you're most interested in, and really get to know what companies are in that niche and who do you know who works there.
Now, for the college student, again, I'm going to address the one pre-graduation. I know I had a guest on recently, Dr. Markel Quarles, whose career program at Arkansas State, as I recall. And he was encouraging those students to spend time with their professors, to spend time at the college placement offices or career services, as they're now called, getting to understand what it is they need to know in order to make themselves of appeal to a prospective employer when they graduate. That sounds like what you're speaking about. Am I right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Since no company of any kind hires unless they have a problem they can't solve with the people they're already paying, you have to know what the problem is. And it may well be that they simply don't have enough bodies in the lab to do X, to get it done. But you need to know what expertise you bring to the table. And if you've graduated with a PhD, you have skills, you've done tasks, but you may not be aware of what those things are versus what industry needs. So
there does tend to be a difference between the two.
Yes.
Now, for the veteran person who's been in the lab for a long time, nose to the grindstone, I heard you say that one of their issues is they don't network and may not know how to network. So for them, where could they begin?
My recommendation is that they first of all become aware of who's already in their network, to use a spreadsheet or even just a list of all the people they know who work in the industry. Who are they? Where do they work? How do you get in touch with them? When was the last time you talked to them? Keeping your network polished means contacting each person in your network at least once a year, even if it's just a holiday card or a phone call or an email. Once you start looking for a job, you're going to narrow down who it is you're responding to, working with, interacting with, networking with, to those who are currently working in companies you're most interested in. But you need to know at least one person in each of the companies that you want to work for.
And when you talk about reaching out to people, the story I tell myself about people in the lab is they're not really people with personalities.
But not true. Not true at all. Early in my career, I had the opportunity to either go into high-tech or biotech. And what I discovered was people in the lab are more than willing to talk to me, whereas programmers were not. And The biologists love to tell you what they're working on. So they have plenty of personality. They may be a little shy, but given the opportunity, they are more than willing to tell you what they're doing.
That's great. And thus, when they start their networking process and they're reaching out, do you have a suggestion about what that reach out should be about?
About the other person. What is the other person doing? What do they like about their job? What do they like about their company? How's it going? What are they working on? Just get into the geeky details of what exactly is going on in that other person's lab.
That's great. Again, referring to one of my earlier shows, actually several of my earlier shows, whether it was with John Sampson or the one that follows that whose name escapes me at this moment, everything is about being focused on the other and just checking in with them. Hi, how are you? What's going on with you? What are you doing? What are you working on? Because more often than not, the more that they talk, the other person talks, the more they like you.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I say that networking is where you give something that doesn't cost you much. A cup of coffee, your attention, a link, a connection, but most of all, your interest in the other person. And what you get is something that doesn't cost the other person very much, usually information. And this two-way flow feels best when you've given more than you've asked for, but that's true on both sides. So if you're each giving 100%, you feel good, and you make a friend.
Agreed, and it's a friend who could be very helpful to you later on. Mm-hmm. And folks, if you haven't already figured this out, although we're focusing on life sciences and biotech today, this advice is perfect in any field whatsoever about how to really start building the connections or rebuild your connections in order to have a network in place for when you need it. See, right now you may be listening to the show at a point that you're actively looking for work, but the fact remains, while you're building this network and then you land a job, do you want to go through all this work again and again and again? Unfortunately, too many people drop their networks at the point they find a job.
Yeah.
Huge mistake.
Huge mistake. Absolutely huge mistake.
And you spoke about branding and the importance of branding for folks in life sciences and biotech. How does someone build a brand? What sort of steps might they be able to take to develop the consciousness in others of their existence?
Well, you're right. A brand really is about being known, remembered, liked, and trusted. That's what a brand is. So the first question is, how can you be known? And the second question is, how can you be remembered? And you want to be known in a positive light because you also want to be liked. So again, about the other. If you are reaching out to people that don't know you, you want to do it in such a way that they like being reached out to. So building a brand means being known by the people who are going to be your clients or your customers or your employers. So you want to be where they are, or potential employers. You want to be where they are and be known as someone who is helpful. Okay, so this is what those large networking events are for. Bio is coming up. The J.P. Morgan healthcare event happened in January. Being present at those kinds of things can help, or you can disappear into the crowd. The question is, how can you be known by the right people? You don't need to be known by, in biotech, you do not need to be known by the people who run Macy's, right? Or Bloomingdale's. Don't need to be known by them. you do need to be known by the people in your industry. You can't be known by everybody, but you can be present in the lives of the people that you want to be known by. So online is important. Your LinkedIn profile is your calling card, essentially. It is the most important place to be online at this point. But you don't want to neglect your other online profiles either. If you have a Google Plus profile, or there are some specialty ones, biowebspin.com is one. There are a number of very niched social media groups. There are also LinkedIn groups and Google Plus communities where you can go and be present, be helpful, like, comment, or post. And
what are some of those Google Plus and specialty niche areas? And again, for the veterans, they may already know this, but for the newbies, the beginners, this is probably going to be real useful for them to hear about.
Mm-hmm. And people who are nose down in their job frequently don't realize how important social media can be.
So what are these groups? We got to tell
them. Okay. In LinkedIn or Google Plus, you go into the search bar and you type in whatever your keyword is. You should know what your keywords are. This is totally important on your LinkedIn profile. That's the skills and expertise, or skills and endorsements section. What do you put in there for your skills? If you then take one of those and go and put it in the groups in LinkedIn, you'll get a list of groups that are about that, or in which that word comes up a lot. And you want to choose a group that has active discussions. If a group has, 14,000 people in it, but nobody's talking, it's probably not too interesting. If it has 100 people in it and they're constantly talking to each other, that's much more useful.
Although at the time that you're looking for a job, being in the 14,000 person group may be more helpful because it extends the reach of your network and your ability to connect without spending for an in-mail to be able to do so.
That's true. That is totally true.
But you also mentioned some of the specialty social network groups beyond the majors. Could you mention a couple of those for the listeners?
I like biowebspin.com. It tends to be more academic and more international than some, but they've got some great discussions. It's a good place to post your publications, that kind of thing.
Terrific. Is there one other that you might be able to mention that you think is pretty decent?
I'm still looking for it, frankly.
Okay.
There are some good Google Plus communities on various topics that are interesting, but I don't have them up in front of me at the moment.
That's okay. So you were talking about, so far you've spoken about how the beginner needs to be clear about what they want to be doing, and how the experienced person, particularly those in the lab, have to be building a brand of reputation, and so that people will know of them, and be out there networking to build connections with people who could be helpful to them as part of their search.
Right.
What else should these folks be doing in order to find their next job or organization to align with?
One of the things that happens in the bio and pharma world that does not happen as much, or at least I'm not aware of it, in other industries, is the whole idea of publications. and who's working on what at what cutting edge where. So PubMed is well known to all the biotech people, and you really do need to keep up with who's publishing papers on what. And really, really specifically niched areas, therapeutic areas.
And it would sound like that becomes an avenue for you to network with individual people because,
yes.
Again, if you're following up on things within your specialty area in particular, and you're seeing someone in PubMed, and again, that's a service I haven't looked at myself, so please correct me if I'm mistaken.
It's spelled PUBMED.
.com. And
I think it's .com, but if you type in PubMed to Google, you'll get there.
Terrific. So it may not tell you how to reach out to someone who's doing the research, who's published the article, but you can then circle back to LinkedIn or Google and be able to find these individuals to be able to connect with, ask right questions, and begin that process of networking with people who you don't know. Would that be correct?
That is totally correct. Totally correct. And because of the nature, I guess, of researchers, they are more than willing to talk to you about their research. You don't need to be afraid to approach this big name at wherever by email.
Perfect. And it would seem like a lot of folks would be afraid to do that.
It would. Now, you have to approach them about their thing, going back to make it about the other. You don't ever want to be Oliver Twist and say, please, sir, may I have a job?
No, you don't. Hi, how are you? I read about your article. Do you have a job?
Yeah,
no,
right.
I don't think that really works all that well.
Doesn't work all that well. Kind of like, standing outside the prom and saying, will you marry me? No.
No, it doesn't work well. Does not work well at the prom. Does not work well in any place.
Anywhere. So, yeah.
So again, it's reaching out to these people.
Finding a job is really finding a job. The thing about what's different about it in biotech or pharmaceuticals or the healthcare industry in general is that you need to be sure that you're focusing in your industry. Because it is so fragmented, people who are interested in cancer research are not of interest to people who are interested in the human biome, for instance. It's just two entirely different worlds, even though it all gets lumped under biotech, for instance. And people who want to build the tools to do the studies are a different group of people than the people who want to use the tools to cure cancer or make discoveries in other areas of this highly complex thing we call our body.
So true. And this is true for people, by the way, who are not in the life sciences area. As Connie said so well, there is no such thing as biotech. It's all these subsets that anyone really cares about. And in so many fields, that's the case as well. For example, if I said financial services to someone, well, the first thing that comes to mind is a bank or a large financial institution. Yet there are investment banks. There are analytics services. There are firms that provide tools for traders. There are trading operations. There are hedge funds. There are private equity firms. And the twain rarely crosses.
True.
Same thing happens here as well. So you have to network in your niche and develop your reputation within that niche in order to be effective.
And we can even go down even further and say that someone who works in quality assurance in a therapeutics company is a different kind of person with a different skill set than someone who works in quality assurance in a medical device company.
Right.
You wouldn't think that would be true, but because they're both dealing with the FDA, but in fact, very different skill sets.
And as recruiters, we know that when firms are providing us with specifications for positions to be filled, they're clear about what they want. They don't really
They may not tell us exactly what it is because they live
right.
there, like fish in water. They may not tell you exactly what the water's like, but they know for a fact, freshwater fish don't want saltwater fish.
They want square pegs for that square hole, and you may want to be doing that kind of work, but once you have a couple of years of experience, it's hard to cross over, unless, of course, there's a personal introduction or referral that at least gives you entree. So, consistently, it's all about being able to network and develop a reputation with people who are within your niche, who are within your specific field, not that big broad category, but that really tiny one that you really live in time and time again, where you can show people that you're an expert.
Yes. Yes.
Connie, we're starting to get up toward the end of our time with one another. Is there another point that we want to open up now that we haven't covered yet?
There's hours and hours of things we can talk about, Jeff. But
let's do
I
one.
think
The first one that comes into your mind, that's the one we want.
How to find a job in the biotech or healthcare industry. Be open, be friendly, be willing to talk to anybody, but know what you want. Know what your criteria are for your next job, what your criteria are for your next company, and what companies meet those criteria.
Perfect. You've done my summary for me. Thank you. I appreciate you doing that for me. Connie, I know you provide a service for job hunters in this field. Could you tell everyone about it, please?
The website is www.networkpolishkit.com. I have a lot of goodies, offers there that you can take advantage of. I also do personal coaching and webinars, packages, podcasts, transcriptions, all kinds of things are available at that site, plus lots of information in the blog. So I know that people who are just getting started feel afraid to spend money with a coach, even though I agree with you, Jeff, they really ought to. And it's a great present to give your graduating student. Let me talk to the parents here. But in the meantime,
for the parents, it also means that you don't have to get into arguments with your student. So that the coach is going to say much the same thing as you will. However, number one, they come with a halo around them of being an expert. And number two is, they're in your corner. They want to help the student find a job. So definitely a great gift for a graduate.
Right. But for those who have been out of work for a while, and this industry has had its downturns as well, there's a lot of free stuff available both on my website and on others. So,
Connie, thank you. I appreciate you making time here. Folks, we'll be back next time with more job search advice to help you find work more quickly. I'm Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter, and if you're interested in coaching from me, you can reach out to me through VIPpersonalsearch.com, where I have information about the coaching services that I provide. In addition, if you just have a question a question or two. You can contact me through liveperson.com, where I'm a job search and career coaching expert. If your current firm, is trying to hire someone, send me an email at jeffoldman@thebiggamehunter.us. Let me know who to reach out to and whether or not I can mention your name. I'd love to help your firm staff positions. And I'll also say, if you like some of the content that I provide, in addition to this radio show, come over to thebiggamehunter.us. There's a ton of information available to you to help